You've seen him inside the pages of DC's Dark Knight's Metal and the Terrifics, but Plastic Man's got his own book. I'm Stan, and this is Detail Comics. What's up, everybody? This is an I Rate Review, the show where I go over a comic book, its storyline, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you should go back to the comic book shop for or not. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single week. The book that I want to talk about right now is Plastic Man #1 from Gail Simone, and what this does is it takes one of the weirdest, strangest, and possibly one of the strongest and most deadly characters inside the DC universe and throws him into his own 6-part miniseries. And Gail Simone throws a lot of curveballs into here, and it's a really weird book, but it's one that I really appreciate. So let's dive in and see exactly what Gail's got in store for us. After being a key player in DC's Dark Knight's Metal and most recently the Terrifics as part of DC's New Age of Heroes, Plastic Man gets his own 6-issue miniseries written by Gail Simone with art by Adriana Melo. And it opens up in a very interesting way because what we see is Eel O'Brien on his knees in an alleyway about to get his ass beat, which is just a great way to introduce the character. And as we go through this issue, we get a sense of who this character actually is. We get the introduction of Sammy Suitcase Mazzola, we get Benny, we get Darren, and all these different people that played a role in Eel's early life. And what we see is a great indication of exactly who Eel O'Brien and Plastic Man is at his core. Because as he's about to get his ass beat in, blood streaming from his face, he looks up at his attacker and asks him, hey, I left some rubbers at your mom's house. Could you get them for me because your sister's in town? And it's just great as they break his kneecaps in the middle of this alleyway, leaving him in a broken heap to just sit there and die. And it turns out that somebody shows up in this alleyway as the criminals take off, and it's this kid who just starts to use this word like he's like, that's so wang, like that's so badass, or like that's so dope. It's just like, no, that's so wang. And his name is Suave Pado Swakatoon. It's just this random street kid that goes through here, and Plastic Man's just like, hey, is Wang good? Is Wang bad? Does it still mean penis? It's just a great indication of what kind of humor Gail Simone is going to be injecting into this story. And it's just this really kind of dark, menacing alleyway that immediately changes as soon as we get over to the next page, where Plastic Man makes his way into the streets, full costume, just barreling his way through the city side. And as we dive into exactly what's going on in the story, we get a lot more backstory for Plastic Man himself. He doesn't remember dying, but he remembers that he was dead. He knows that there was this kind of job that they were supposed to pull at this chemical factory, and that the guard ended up dead. He doesn't remember who killed the guard. He doesn't remember who shot him, who pulled the trigger, but he knows that he's going to get some answers. So he follows Benny and decides to take up the shape of the thing that he fears the most, which when you flip the page, it's Wonder Woman. Which is just absolutely ridiculous. Classic fear of women, and the just absurd nature of some of these aspects just really catches me in the right fashion when it comes to the actual humor of the book. But he does get his answers. Even though he's Plastic Man, he just grabs Benny, sends him up into the sky, playing elevator for him, and extracts the answers that he needs, which is that Eel O'Brien killed the guard, which doesn't really feel right. It doesn't sit right with Plastic Man, as it shouldn't. Now, not only does he feel like a creep, but is he a murderer as well? And that's where we see his other job, as he works as a night manager at what appears to be some sort of strip club or something along those lines, where we see Bombshells era Supergirl flirting with him, and as you get further into the club, you've got Batman dancing next to Catwoman in their lingerie, and of course Mara is just not into Eel O'Brien whatsoever because he's a criminal and she doesn't date criminals. And it's just a real immersive vision of the world that Eel O'Brien lives in, that Plastic Man came from and that continues to exist in, even though when he dons the costume, he is a superhero for all intents and purposes and was part of one of the most recently cosmic shattering events inside this world. But as he lies back in bed, we actually get a flashback with a little bit more detail regarding this actual heist. We see the guard coming down the stairs. He screams at the guys, and then all of a sudden the gun goes off. It looks like it's Benny's gun. The bullet from the guard passes by, smashes into the chemical container, and it envelops Eel. He starts to melt as they get him into the getaway car. He needs a doctor, but no, Sammy isn't going to have any of that as they throw him out of the getaway car, leaving him to just lay on the ground and die. And that's where he just wakes up, wondering exactly what's going on as this vision kind of takes him. But there's somebody there. He's not alone. And being the person that he is, he's just like, hey, I'm just going to warn you. I'm naked under here, so if you want to just check out and get that full load of my goods, then you probably want to turn around. And he just he's got a 6-pack, he's got a 12-pack, he's talking about her staring at his dick, which is just ridiculous, but she is trying to recruit him. She's trying to recruit him for some sort of infiltration because all these people from across the multiverse, all these teams, these capes that he doesn't trust, and he doesn't trust for various reasons that we're going to find out later, all of them are compromised, or at least that's what Spiral believes. So she's looking for somebody to put inside these cabals so that way they can find out exactly what's going on. But as soon as we get to the good part of the conversation, Benny calls him up. He's been tracked down by somebody. Sammy and Darren, they've gone missing. He doesn't know exactly who to call, but he's going to call Eel O'Brien, the man that he used to call friend, before he threw him outside of a car. And Plastic Man, of course, on the scene. He makes his way over and he stands over the pool of blood that surrounds Benny, just wondering exactly what's going on. Who did this to you? As he scratches out in blood-soaked finger, JLA. Plastic Man, even when he was a crook, never trusted the capes, and definitely not now that he's a superhero, but we find that this is something more. He's been set up. You've got the SWAT team, you've got this woman, this supposed eyewitness. I saw it, he murdered my neighbor in cold blood. And that's where we end issue number 1. And I think Gail Simone is doing a pretty fantastic job capturing the essence of who Plastic Man is. He's not necessarily a super haha funny person, but he sets up funny scenarios. And the way that he interacts with people, he's always kind of like on the offensive in terms of his humor and his funniness, trying to disarm other individuals, even though he feels terrible about himself on the inside, but he still moves forward to try and do the right thing, even though he may not have the most benevolent intentions. And that's just a really great use of the character. And Adriana Melo does a really good job capturing a lot of different things. Her character models look really good, and the way that she draws Plastic Man, the elasticity, the actual motion of the character is very fun. But even the supporting characters in the background, they've got a really cool style, and when you're in the club, like, everybody's got this kind of life to them. It's just a really fun experience. So Plastic Man, while it's not something you guys would expect me to review like first off, I think it's a great opportunity for people to grab onto a character, especially if they've been reading the Terrifics or if they were in Dark Knight's Metal. This is a book that's so short, 6 issues in a miniseries, that it's going to allow you to consume it in its entirety and enjoy it for what it is, which is going to be a singular standalone series that doesn't necessarily need a tie into everything else. I want to know what you guys think too about Plastic Man. I had a really good time with it, but if you didn't, let me know why in the comments, or let me know why you loved it in the comments. But hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.